So, good day everyone. Our topic for today is demography and population studies. This is an introduction. So, what is demography? First, the size and composition of population according to diverse criteria, such as like age, ethnicity, sex, union, whether marital or cohabiting status, educational attainment, spatial distribution, and so forth. Two, dynamic life course process that change this composition: birth, death, union, migration, and etc. And for the third one is relationship between population composition and change, and the broader social and the physical environment in which they exist. What is population? So everyone know what is population. Let's just recap it. Defined as a group of individuals, the same species living and interbreeding within a given area, rely on the same resources, such as water, food, and etc., are subject to similar environmental constraints and depend on the availability of other members to persist over time. Elements of demography: birthplace, crude birth rate, number of live birth per thousand population a given year, total fertility rate, average number of children born alive to any, death rate, number of death rate per 1,000 population in a given year. So that is elements of the demography. So the other one is life expectancy, the median number of years a person can expected to live under current mortality conditions, and growth rate, the difference between birth rates and death rates, plus the difference between immigrants and immigrants. So demography, this is coined by Ashley Gillardon, 1855. So, and John Grant's natural and political observation mentioned in a following index and made upon the bills of mortality. So he published this in 1662 in London. So the demos is the people and the grapheme to write about particular subject, in this instance population. The mathematical knowledge of population, their general movements, and their physical, civil, intellectual, and moral state. So again, demos is people, and the grapheme is to write the people about or particular subject, in this instance population. So that is demography.
Good day, everyone. So today we will be discussing important concepts about population data collection and composition. So first off, we have census. So essentially, a census is a population count where the demographic, economic, and social data of every individual of a given time are collected, tabulated, compiled, and published. This is preferred by the United Nations encourage countries to be able to do this, offering them both technical and financial aid. In our country, this is handled by the PSA, also known as the Philippine Statistics Authority, and this is under the Philippine Statistics Act of 2013. Now let's move on to another source of demographic data. Second, we have Vital Statistics Report. Essentially, this is a yearly report of events that deal with an individual's life and death and those in between. These include marriage, important milestones, adoptions, separations. This is essentially someone's life in a report. This provides statistics, and the reason that the government does this is because this provides statistics on various events. These include marriage statistics, birth statistics, death statistics. Essentially, these are important numbers for a country. Next, we now have then sample surveys. So sample surveys are conducted by private and public institutions to obtain data that are not covered by census or vital statistics. These are more focused on helping us understand social, psychological, and economic factors why certain conditions exist. Why some people or why a certain country could be more poor than the rest. It's basically more on context based data gathering. Now, let's move on to the composition of a population. So, a composition of a population essentially includes age and sex composition. Age composition shows the percentage of people at different age levels, which affects the society's economic and social structure. Sex composition, on the other hand, compares the numbers of males and females. And of course, this is influenced by births, deaths, and migrations. Finally, we have the population pyramid or age sex pyramid. We can see here on the slide that it says tree of ages. This presents both the age and the sex characteristics of a population, which can be used as prediction of its growth and decline. So, how do you read a population pyramid, right? So, you'll find on the x-axis that on the x-axis will be the number or percentage of people, right? Yes, the x-axis shows the percentage of people, and the y-axis shows the age groups, which is usually in a 5-year interval, like from 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and there are different kinds of interpretations for a population pyramid. We often have wide base, where many young people are being born, so the population is growing fast. We have the we have a if we have a narrow base, then this tells us that there are low birth rates, therefore the population is not um, is not growing faster, and there are a lot more older people. And a straight or a rectangular pyramid is essentially a population that has stable growth.
Good day, everyone. So, next, I'll be discussing the brief history of the world population. So, how the number of people on Earth has changed and grown through time. We'll look at different periods from early humans to the agricultural and industrial revolutions, and finally, to modern times with urbanization and migration. So, first, the hunter gatherers. So, back in the earliest days, humans were hunter gatherers. So, people lived by hunting animals and gathering plants for food. So, the human population was very small, was about 8 million around 8000 BC. So, the death rates were very high because of diseases, lack of food, and danger from the environment, and expectancies were rarely more than 30 years. So during this time, the population increased very slowly. Next, agricultural revolution. So next came the agricultural revolution. This started around 8000 BC when humans learned to farm and domesticate animals. So people began living in one place, which improved living conditions, and we call this sedentary life. So because of better food sources and diets, fertility rates rose, meaning more babies were born. And death rates lowered because people had more stable food supplies. So during this period, the population began to grow faster, so doubling every 1530 years. Then came the Industrial Revolution in 1750s. So this was a major turning point. New machines, factories, and transportation systems were invented, and death rates decreased faster than fertility rates because of better economic conditions and higher living standards. So, medical technology improved, especially through vaccinations, which saved many lives. So, more people started to migrate to cities for work. So, because of this rapid growth, the term population explosion was coined. So, in short, the Industrial Revolution caused the world population to rise dramatically. Next, the redistribution through migration, so the European expansion. So during the European expansion, since the 14th century, so people began migrating on a large scale. So many moved from Latin America and Asia to the United States, from Asia to Canada, and within Europe from east to west. So this migration helped redistribute populations across the world as people search for better opportunities and living conditions. So migration became one of the key factors that changed population distribution. And next, the redistribution through migration, south to north migration. So later around 1930s, migration patterns changed. So people from the south, which is the less developed areas, began moving to the north. So north is more developed regions. So this movement was driven by the search for jobs, better educations, and a better life. So in industrialized nations, this created what we call the urban revolution, so which is the rapid growth of cities. So for example, in the 2000 US Census, non-Hispanic whites were no longer the majority in California, so showing how migration reshaped population demographics. Okay, and then next, the urban revolution. So, in ancient times, large cities were rare. For example, so Rome had around 650,000 people in AD 100, which was huge for that time. So, but as recently as 18,000, less than 1% of the world's population live in big cities. So today, over one third of all humans live in cities with 100,000 people or more. So this shows how much the world has urbanized over time. So finally, in the 28th century, in urbanization became global. So industrialization in Europe, America, and Japan created commercial and job opportunities. So less developed areas also started engaging in commerce and trade. So by the second half of the 28th century, rural populations began moving to cities in large numbers. And this is why our world today is mostly urban. So, in short, the growth of cities became one of the biggest features of modern population history. So, in conclusion, so to summarize, so the world population started small and grew very slowly among hunter gatherers. So it increased during the agricultural revolution, exploded in the industrial revolution. So and keep redistributing and urbanizing through migration and urban revolutions. And all these changes show how human progress, technology, and lifestyle have deeply influenced how the world's population has evolved. So that's all for this topic, and thank you for listening.